Hello, my name's Danny. I'm a mental health consultant based in Ibiza, and in this video I'm going to explain to you how you can fix your mental health. Now, we're going to talk about how emotions work, how to process them, and how you can go from where you are now, whether you are experiencing a temporary state or if you have a chronic state, you've been this way for a long time, how you can reverse that back to being present and free from all these undesirable feelings and experiences that you're having at the moment. So we'll get straight to it. Mental health is cause and effect. You weren't born like this. You have acquired a condition from different experiences in your life. If your life experience was different today, you would be feeling different. In chronic conditions, you are still holding on to the emotions and the beliefs from, well, the beliefs is how you experience in reality, it's your perception from the past. And for depression and for sadness, the truth is you need to be able to have your life better now than it has ever been. Otherwise, you're going to continuously be comparing how your life is now to how it was then. And happiness is different to mental health. Happiness is completely dependent on your circumstances and what you're doing, your environment, where you are, and a variety of other reasons, which I'll get into in another video. Mental health is everything that is stopping you from getting to that life situation. So right now, let's say you're depressed, let's say you're anxious, it might be quite new to you, or even if you have a chronic condition, you do slip into this sometimes, but the particular state, you need awareness, you need to find out what is causing how I feel. My first experience of this was one of the first times I became self-employed. This was over 10 years ago, and I couldn't figure out why one day was different to another, because it was the first time I was out of a regular environment. Why is that? What are the causes? What needs to change? Where is the problem? Is it in my mind or is it external in my current environment? And I found the answer, and that's really why I wrote the book that I wrote, and why it took me, I mean, this is the third time I'm working in mental health. I've traveled the world, I've lived in different locations, and I've done many other jobs too. But when I feel like I've finally solved it, and that's the whole point, it is cause and effect. And what you need is no unaccounted for variables. So look at your life, look at what is happening from when you feel okay to then when you don't feel okay. It's slight changes, it can happen in seconds. So start looking at the people you have around you, how you're being treated, what is the atmosphere like? Are people making you panic when they talk to you in a certain way? This can be your internal associations, or it can be coming from an external environment. If someone's not speaking to you in the right way and putting you down, that is a cause of emotion. Now, other videos will go into energy and different things like this, but energy and any kind of spiritual stuff aside, if someone shouts at you or does something that releases adrenaline, that is going to instigate a stressful or anxious response in you. Okay, so these are some of the different reasons why you can change into that different state. And we're going to get to the internal reasons because a lot of the time it is internal. There are things your body needs, such as daylight. Okay, there's no thinking positive about that. I've worked in places where there's no windows, but that's not even legislation. So you need to start paying attention to the times when you do change. And people do affect you, we affect each other, whatever moods, you're in a certain environment that's really flat, that's going to rub off on you. It's the same if you go to, well, you used to go to the pub, not at the moment, and there's a good buzz. As soon as you walk in, you feel the atmosphere. So there's so much to psychology that's omitted. So you really have to learn and go through your own experience of why you feel a certain way. Okay, there's things you need, such as nature, silence, etc. Now, emotions are signals. They're saying something's not right. These feelings are trying to get your attention. Okay, so if you're feeling angry, it's because your boundaries are being crossed. So you need to make changes in these relationships. This is for temporary states, okay? If you're overreacting to something, you just feel really, that's from the past. And we'll get to chronic states later. But right now, how you're feeling, there's reason. Stress, physical, psychological overload, going too hard physically, thinking too much. That's what's going to cause this. Overwhelm. Too much happening inside the mind, too many pictures. Yeah, you can read these. Okay, so it's my belief there's two general systems we have here. We have the anxiety and stress from the adrenaline response in the body. This is very psychological, it's very much in the mind. Procrastination, all that comes from this psychological system. And I believe we have this because it avoids us going into hurt, it avoids us going into depression or anger. Being upset is both of those things. Depression is the inward, anger is the outward expression of that. So whenever there's been times in the past that you've been hurt, there's going to be associations to that, and that's why people go into adrenaline quite easily and quite quickly. They go into anxiety because it's a fear of something happening. We learn, every experience we're learning, it adds to our mind. Okay, and you've got to break everything down. The way you feel is not just one big emotion. So you can be depressed because your life isn't how you want it, but then there's a sadness there still from the past. But then when you go to change it, if you then become overwhelmed and you fall back in depression, you don't make the changes in your life. So there's overwhelm in there as well, and you could be in a place where everything's kind of coming back to you now, where you've been hurt. That's one part of it, and another part of it, you're disappointed. So you've got to be able to break things down, and I'll get to that soon. Now, simply, people that don't have chronic depression or chronic mental health condition, the idea is you don't dwell on any thoughts. Don't worry about it. You've heard of that before. And just deal with things. Just get on with it. You figure out a plan and you make those changes. If people aren't treating you right, you get them out of your life. If the job's really bad for your physical body, you change the job. Okay, so there's a learning, there's a message. That's why I'm saying it's a signal. So you learn and then you make plans. Okay, and for depression, it's true. You do need to be actively involved in life. Now, it's not always that simple. Because there's anxiety, there's all these other different things that are stopping you from doing that. So we need to really break things down, being more organized with what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and then you can deal with all these different things, and then you can follow the conventional advice that people are giving you. But unfortunately, you'll probably have a severe condition because of the way life is set up. And I'll get to that later, we don't always process emotions at the time. So there's a lot of associations, and people generally only get help once they can't handle it anymore. They've just kept suppressing. So in the future, wherever you need to get to, you need to gather the right information about the next steps in your life. If there's confusion, it's because you don't have enough information. So this is for a normal plan, okay? If there are painful associations from past pain, there's going to be associations to that. For example, I was speaking with a business owner and he didn't want to get involved in YouTube or anything like that. Just the second it rose up, no, I was like, no, I don't want it, because of the overwhelm, the stress from taking his business further, because he's been stressed for so long. Another guy had 3 businesses, and this third, even though he's the most capable person ever, it's all that pain from the past, all that stress is associated with the future ideas. Okay, so when we look at this over time, as you get older and older and older, there's all these different experiences. So if we've got the past on this side, we've got the present right now, we have the future. And this is someone's daily experience. They follow this line, okay? And there's all positive experiences and negative experiences. So we're going to heal the pain from release all the emotion. So one, you're not revisiting it, but two, it's not diluting how you feel, because there's a base state of how you feel, and then there's a particular association. For example, someone thinks about using technology to get into business. That's an association, right? Before you even mention that, they weren't thinking about it, but they would still have a general base state. Okay, and then once you've dealt with a lot of this stuff, it's much more of a track, and then wherever you're keeping your focus is how you're going to feel. So this is for the people I'm trying to help, really more complicated stuff. If you haven't had this much experience, then this is what it's going to be more like for you. You're happy when you're focused on certain things, or if you're in negative areas, you're going to be here. But there's much less going on for people that can quite simply follow the standard advice. So this is for you, right? Break everything down. Every emotion. Whenever you feel worried, just be really aware of what's happening in your head. Okay, there'll be memories associated with it, and there'll be concepts. Okay, that should make sense. They're all dealt with differently. So you can think by the emotion when you go into the emotion of anger or whatever it is. And then you've also got a particular area of your life where things aren't working out for you. Or if that's too complicated because you're really in a bad way at the moment, just write it down in boxes like that. Break down whatever's in your mind. You'll then notice vision. You'll find an immediate relief as the depressed state you're experiencing diminishes temporarily. Your vision is clear. All your worries are down. Now there's less confusion. Your mind is more open. Don't stop there though. First, you have a vision when you feel good and a vision when you feel bad. This is a complete law. So pay attention to this. All these documents you can get for free on my website. Once everything is dealt with, let's just imagine now your mind's empty and you've dealt with all the pain, you've dealt with all the memories. You then need a plan, a trajectory. When you know where you're going, you've got something to look forward to. You have a realistic landmarks, whereas what people are doing is following the pop psychology, law of attraction and things like that. They have where they want to be, or like a nice house somewhere sunny, but the in between is just clouds. It's just there's nothing there. So the vision, the trajectory isn't real. So that's when there's doubt. That's when there's hoping, which is not the same as I'm going, this is happening, it's not real. So you need to work on your mind, you need to work on your vision, but first obviously you need to clear everything out. Okay, so this can be the same person or two different people. So we have everything from the past, okay, which is what weighs people down and where they give up on life a little bit because the way they're perceiving it is it's all been terrible, and it may have been terrible, but they're deleting the times that have been good, because when you're in a depressed state, all you can think about is the negative. And then in the future, okay, there's obstacles, they seem really big, things are confusing, the future looks bleak or boring because that's what they're experiencing right now. Well, really the future is infinite, but that's what they're seeing. They're in this loop. And then over here, but once you've done the work, you look back on the obstacles and the pains, and it's rather than that was terrible, it's like I got through that. I kept going. And then you remember your achievements. And then you stand on this. So rather than it being one small, this is the little, the terrible world that you're in, the first step is ignoring this. You open this up and it's, wow, you feel differently about that. You feel differently about you. And when you feel good about you and things are possible, it changes everything. And then you look at the future differently. So you're gathering information, you're finding your way forward, however you need to be, whatever you need to do, and then you deal with all, you break everything down potentially that you're worried about, all the different concepts, you release the emotion, and you have a clear path. Okay, so most basically it is the vision that's the first path. So we need to distinguish between pains and problems. Pain is the emotion, the sadness, the insecurity. Okay, it's not generally what the problem is, it's the way you feel about it. Right? This is why they say, Africans, they're starving, but they're so happy. Okay, whereas if we look at different society today, that's why the other advice is be grateful, etc. So get that really clear. Okay, you need to be able to separate this, because one, you're dealing with them in different ways. You have to deal with the emotion, or you have to deal with the problem. Dealing with problems comes down to information. If you have the wrong information or not enough information, that leads to pain. That leads to things going wrong. So whatever information you have can be creating the pain. For example, if you think there's no way for me to make a living these days because of inflation and because of house prices, that's the information you have. You're not going to feel very good about that. But if you see the other side of it, where there's more millionaires today than ever, and you find out a way forward, and even if you're not there yet, just because you have enough information, you can see a way. So that is what's going to affect how you feel. And there is emotion that is tied into information. Okay, and it is the emotion generally tends to be the problem. So be aware of what the first thoughts are that you think. For example, if you think of something like, any example, such as taking a business online, the idea is overwhelming, okay? Whereas if it's broken down, or there's different concepts to it, such as if the first thought was, well, then you can go and live in another country, that's a completely different first thought to, I've got to sit at a computer and get stressed again. So whatever is linked, whatever is there first, is going to be the creator of the emotion. So also be aware whenever you're engaging in your next steps, the first thoughts in your mind are just that. They're just the first thought. It's not the truth. It might not be the ideal information either. Okay, and the important thing is you're actually doing things and you're not just staying stuck wherever you are. And this is why people get to certain stages in life, eventually they overcome it, because we want to get to whatever it is you want, love, money. People don't see how to get to the next bit. So part of all of this is sorting your life out and getting information. Okay, and the only way you can really do that, or even have the moment to think about it, is once all the problems aren't in your mind. Now, I made this because if you have mental health conditions, you are probably not in a great state of your affairs being ordered. It can be one problem after another. So when you get them all down, it empties your mind. Okay, so people have difficulty dealing with problems because of anxiety, because of stress, because of depression. So you need to be aware of the consequences as well, keeping that in your mind. Sometimes people, their coping strategy, I'm just going to stop thinking, stop worrying. Yeah, bad idea. You need to keep thinking. But if you get everything up on the walls, these sheets I have for you, you can then keep the consequences in mind, but also the solutions. So these solutions, when you have 5, 10 of them, there are different, it makes the problems feel less. And just by writing and writing and writing, there are different avenues. Even if you don't solve them immediately, you are aware of when they need to be solved and when they occurred. So you start getting your life back under control. Now I have a video about meditation, ways of emptying your mind, because people carry things around because there's so much information these days. Our minds aren't designed to understand things like mortgage interest rates and things like that. So you've got to get all this information out and onto paper, and keep things like this on your site, because again, memory is a problem. And if for whatever reason you fall down, as I said about the vision, okay, It can be because you've acquired another obstacle that you can't get around. You need to keep moving. You need to stay doing things. And the longer you take to deal with this obstacle, what happens is your energy drops, and then you can sink back down here. So as soon as problems occur, you've got to deal with them straight away or get a plan in action. And you don't have to force yourself to think of solutions, because you can be in Tesco's and then it appears in your mind. So you want to keep a notepad with you as well, right? The other reason is because I don't feel I can, or I don't feel it's possible. So how you feel about you and how you feel about the world, right? These are concepts, me and then the world. So if we look at depression, where things have changed, we've got landmarks. We're in both of them. When you have something exciting and you have a grid to follow, you can be motivated, you feel more motivated. Whereas the past, I've spoke about this already, and again, identity, external references. And depending on which state you're in, which I'll get to in the next video, you're going to have access to more of those thoughts. So we change the state, okay? And I'll explain that at the end as well. So your model of the world is made up of thoughts. These are all building blocks. So every idea, every big concept such as you or the world is made as a house, and all your experiences are individual building blocks, and you break them all down one at a time, and each one's going to have different emotion. Every subject has this. So imagination can become a new source of pain. So even just thinking about certain things, such as people, our idea of people can be, if you check your change when you buy something, are you checking it because people are trying to pull a fast one with you, or you check your change and think, okay, people make mistakes. One has a negative feeling, one has an understanding feeling. So another reason when you're depressed and things do look negative, if your friend says to you, should we go to art club? You make a picture of art club in your mind. If art club is actually amazing, your friend has a great picture in their mind, a movie with all the people that are there, whereas in your mind, it's just a picture that you've based on the words that they've said, and because you're in a negative state, you have access to more negative pictures, so it's not going to be as compelling. Right, you're never actually experiencing life, you're experiencing your perception of it. So what you need to do is deal with all the stored emotion that's weighing you down, and then you deal with the individual concepts of reality, of now, the future. That's going to make it much easier to sort your life out. And this emotion is there from specific events in the past. The emotion was not processed properly. It lays dormant in you. Historically, this would release itself because we would have been living in nature. It would have been very easy for the emotion, the energy to pass through you. Or, you would fight or flight, you would have ran away. You wouldn't be stuck at a desk releasing adrenaline with all that bubbling through you. So the way to do it, and this might happen naturally, this is why people over time, they do get better, just by having epiphanies, listening to their own thoughts, and then through over time, the physical element, the emotion does move out. The best way to do it is to be specific about it and to get it done now rather than waiting for it to pop up on its own. So listening, reading, anything that stimulates the mind, conversations, you're going to get these concepts. You're going to get thoughts, which are the root of the emotion. Memories are the root of the emotion. And you're going to get individual concepts, which is going to be related to whatever you're doing. Your next step in life, perhaps. And a current construct is something these thoughts make up, such as identity, the future, the past, or badminton. So there's ways of unlocking these thoughts and the emotion that they are attached to. And then what I recommend is, rather than just waiting after that, is then you get physically involved. It happens in conversation with clients. They might even laugh about something when they realize. They might cry. They might have an urge to move, either right then or later in the day. Though I encourage people to get Reiki, I encourage hypnotherapy. I encourage you to go to nature and to be exercising. This is all going to get it out of the body. So every thought that you have is negatively charged or positively charged. Your objective is to remove all the core beliefs that these thoughts are attached to, and to add, through thinking, through meditation, through interacting with people, through life experiences, acquiring this positive emotion and creating it. You are then going to be able to rebuild your mind, rebuild your body. It's important that you don't accept negative energy, negative beliefs, negative ideas as well, because that's not good for you. So let's look at this. When we look at different areas in our lives, there are often emotional blocks. This is why people get the same circumstances repeating. So someone who is really confident socially may be terrible in their career. Most people all have problems in one area, and it's because of the emotions. So by chance, it's going to be one category or another. You have these are negative experiences, and you have the treasure chest, positive experiences. You should be able to feel this in certain moments when you feel inspired and you feel, I'm going to go and do this now. Though it does get to a point for people where even the inspiration then becomes weak because they become numb. So then it requires much more of the physical aspect of healing, really getting into the exercise, the yoga, the nature, and awareness, which I'll talk about in another video. So we want to look at getting your mind in the game. You want to have a look at this in as scientific a way as you can, because there are different indications from frequency, duration, and intensity. So where things are very intense, it means there's a lot of bottled emotion, right? If it's frequency, there are many associations to this, many memories, many different experiences that link back to this emotion. So then it's a lot of individual sessions that you're going to have to break down, whether it's getting on stage, whether it's going for a job interview, wherever there's been negative experiences in the past from different categories, you break these down. Or it's duration, which is your general ability. So once you get better at this, you get more understanding of fixing your emotions. By the same token, you're then going to be able to get in and out of emotions in seconds, minutes, rather than days and weeks. And intensity will generally go down over time as you break down all these associations. The process is to become present. And what Michelangelo said about David was he was always there. I just had to chisel the stone away. And that's what it's like. We've been around for 11,000 days by the time we're 30. A lot has happened that we can't remember all of it. You get to presence, which is what is very popular. People talk about. Now, the body is essential. Over time, when different things happen, your body changes. Unfortunately, people get stuck in environments for months or years where they are experiencing this emotion, perhaps every day. They're not exercising or anything like this. So one day is bad, they still feel that the next day or for a couple of days. And then something happens and they might feel good again, right? But the mind molds. This is why routine is so important. I talk about that in the next video, what to do in the morning, what to do in the evening. So you're constantly resetting, and even things you can do in the day, because you have to recondition yourself. And this is where everyone gets stuck because they don't know the best ways to recondition themselves. And it takes effort, it takes consistency, it takes discipline. Because once you experience the emotion, your body and your brain changes temporarily. It molds to a different state For example, if you're motivated, you're excited, you move quickly, you talk quickly, you think quickly. If you're depressed, there's not really much energy, you're hardly moving. Everything takes a lot of effort, you do things more slowly. So you have to be aware of how this has happened and what you have to do to get back. And once you've been in this for a long time, and it's sad if you have been in these situations for months or years, there are changes, and that's why you don't feel like yourself anymore. So the reason is you have two nervous systems. You have two channels in the nervous system, rather. One induces relaxation and one adrenaline. So these environments have constant, this is why I say you need to get the bad people out of your life, releasing of adrenaline by the way people are treated. So it can be experience after experience after experience, repetition after repetition after repetition. It can even be you're not in one particular environment, but it can be just stressful experiences. If you've been in business and you've gone from failure to failure to failure to failure, these are emotional experiences. Or it can be living in a perpetual state of fear. If you got yourself badly into debt and you haven't dealt with everything psychologically, you're still living in that state of worry constantly. Or again, if it's a hostile environment, you're living with these people, you're working with these people, or wherever, you're always sitting on eggshells. Again, your body is constantly releasing adrenaline until you become an anxious person. Your response is then preventing you doing anything, and you only takes a little thing to set off the adrenaline. And once you're releasing adrenaline, you're going to be tired. You're going to then become isolated. And you're then also going to have fearful reactions, so you then don't go and be social, or you go for a job interview but you don't get the job because you're not yourself, right? And people fall back into depression, and this keeps happening, and then eventually people get stuck in this with this feeling of permanent depression. Okay, and then eventually memory changes, and because life has been bad for so long, what they remember, what is most common in their mind, is a narrative of life is terrible. And every time they think that, it reactivates those emotions. And that's why even when you sort things out, if you haven't healed your mind and your body, you still feel the way you used to. Okay, and it's the numbness, then you don't experience joy as intensely, your sense of touch, your eyesight, you're constantly in the mind, you can't be present, and you have to be present to see, to observe, to experience and enjoy. So you've got to work on the physical body. If you don't want to exercise, I talk a lot about this in the other videos. It's this reconditioning. There's ways of doing that, to want to do this, and it may be you don't want to because you've been going too hard, you're walking in the gym and you're just going full out on the treadmill straight away, you're not aware of your body because you're living in your mind. Okay, I talk about how this is an awareness, there's ways of exercising, so you look forward to it. And again, your experience, when I say exercise, if I say apple, you might think of a red one. And really, I'm talking about a green one. I want to exercise. I was someone, I had a slip disc, I had a bent spine, I financially was in the worst position of my life, and all this mental health conditions as well. Like if anyone wasn't going to exercise, it was me. And all I started doing, I could hardly walk without pain. I was still doing physical manual labour because I couldn't do this kind of work because I was a mess myself. So I had to do minimum wage, tough graft jobs. So if anyone wasn't going to exercise, it would have been me. But I started in the nature, bare feet, one step after another, and I started walking. I started doing this awareness stuff I talk about in the awareness video, and I fixed my back, I sorted my life out, everything changed because I got the body right again. Over time, what starts happening once you go into the body, you start remembering all these experiences from your life, okay? And as you do the stretches and as your posture changes, the emotion physically releases from you. Okay, and if you follow the routine I suggest in the next video, you are constantly thinking, and as you think, you release, you unlock the emotion, and then the emotion comes out in your body. So it's good to do both of these. So what I recommend is you have a conversation, is you just get this done, okay? So whatever's on your mind, whatever reason you think you're depressed, You share them thoughts with me. These are the intellectual concepts from your mind. I give this back to you with my words. That's going to change something as you look from a different perspective. Okay, that's pretty much what conversation is. And you have aha moments, and then whether you realise or not, you will feel something different change in your body. You'll feel you won't be in a depressed state after the conversation. That's what's happening. And to think about it, what is a question? A question makes you go inside your mind and get information that is attached to an emotion. Okay, so the topic can be about anything. You want to talk about the future, yourself, the world around you, not wanting to be here. What is here? Here is your perception of reality. Okay, something's wrong, you're overeating. Again, it all comes back down to the past. So what this is thoughts, but the thoughts are traced to beliefs, and beliefs you've picked up over your life. Okay, so anything like junk food doesn't hurt, you might have heard that. The advertising is go on, it doesn't matter, have some chocolate. So when you go to then eat chocolate, when you walk past it in the shop, it's in your mind, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, I'll just eat that. It's like, no, food is serious. Now you want a serious feeling. This is my body, this is my life. Okay, so your whole reality is made of different emotions, it's made of different ideas. And all of this, these different beliefs are going to affect how you feel. So if you think, for example, politicians are evil, that's going to have a real dislike, when really they're just ignorant. They don't know what most working class people go through, how tough these kind of jobs are, right? Because they haven't experienced it. So understanding here, where that's more anger. Okay, what I said about reality, about the fact there's more millionaires today than ever because of technology. But then again, if your experiences you don't know about that, you don't understand any of that, and it's, you're just looking at the kind of the old world has died. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's good now at all by any means, but if that's the information that you have, then it's going to feel harder because that's the reality that you're trapped in. So whatever you're thinking is going to affect how you feel. Okay, and this one, and it guides your whole life. I remember I had a job I really didn't like. But my idea was good jobs are hard to find. Good jobs are hard to find because of where I come from. If you have a good job, you're lucky. So that was governing me. Whereas later, I found out that employers struggle to find people that work really hard. So there are people, if you have a bad job at the moment and you work hard, who are desperate. They pay recruitment consultants thousands and thousands and thousands to find the right people. So once you are talking, once you're trading ideas with people, it's changing your life, conversation by conversation. So if we have a belief, such as good jobs are hard to find, there's many people might have said that to you. Or business is hard. Business isn't hard. Getting on a building site in the middle of winter is hard. Having no money all the time is hard. But it's what people talk about, and a lot of this happens as you grow up, and your mind is open to all these different beliefs, and there's emotion in that. For example, a big one is identity. It's who I am, and there's different experiences. If you failed a lot of the time, you're going to feel like a failure because you remember that happened, or I embarrassed myself, or that happened. And there's ways you have to release all the information through understanding, through looking at things differently, a knowledge of self, learning about yourself, learning about the world. For example, if you have a lot of anger in you, you realize, okay, well, and you think about these people perhaps that upset you in the past, but then as you get more information, you observe this through different processes of thinking. You think, okay, right, I understand why that person was like that, because they went through this. So these are all different thought channels, okay? There's all different energy and emotion. This is like an atomic level of your mind. Okay, and there's times when people really get stuck is when they have two beliefs. It's like, business is hard and I'm no good at anything, right? There's all these different thoughts. This is why a detailed conversation is why you want to spend an hour with someone breaking things down, one thing after the other until all the emotions shift. For example, the guy I was speaking to, and I went through him, we dealt with this, we dealt with this. It's like he just kept throwing me a tennis ball, all these different things in his mind, all these different thoughts with tennis balls. And then one of the last ones just before we were about to have the call, and he went, yeah, well, if it was younger, it would be easier to rebuild my life. I said, how do you know? If you were younger, you wouldn't have had as much experience. If you were 20 again, you'd be doing everything wrong. So, there's different ways of viewing things, and it's all attached, and it's all stuck. It's all the same structure generally. So you have to break this down. It's like pulling someone out of a simple depression, like bit by bit by bit, and then eventually they're out. Okay, and it's so subtle, like you can't even see and even remember sometimes. So let's get two people. They've both handed out CVs to get a job. One gets it because they call the employer. The other one doesn't because they wait. Right? Why did this person wait? Why did this one go for it? One person had a friend who was an employer, and he said, "I can't believe I let that guy go. I completely forgot to call him, and he was so, he was gonna put in the effort. He would have gotten really well with everyone, and I didn't get back to him in time." So he's remembered that. Okay, so that's why he's like, I'm getting on the telephone straight away. Whereas this person called a company once and the secretary was rude, said, we'll call you if we're interested. So that emotion, that's why you don't like when people talk to you, okay? It leaves you with something. So she might not even remember that this happened, but when it comes to I should call them, the feeling is there. She might not remember this experience. So that's what I do. It's called NLP. Your other options are this. You can get therapy, okay? NLP comes from therapy. It's about finding what works specifically. But generally, as I've broken things down here in beliefs, it's language patterns, okay? Therapy is good to have a connection, right? To get things off your chest. However, it is unscientific and it's more about this relationship, having someone to talk to. And it can be more old school, like in terms of Freud and some things that are very outdated, and it can be more about, how do you feel rather than let's get the problems done. If your job is if that's the issue, you need to change your job. It's this balance between the inside world and the outside world that you should do. Your other option is drugs, and then that's good to get you to function in society, which so you could really be things get even worse for you if you're barely functioning. And for very strong, severe cases like schizophrenia and stuff like that, drugs are essential. So you have to talk to your doctor. However, for a lot of people, you're denying the message of the emotions. I'll give you an example. My family said to me when I was being hard on myself, and I had low confidence, I was like, look, I just need to. I said I was doing minimum wage jobs. Like, I've done this business work. I feel mental health is important to me. I studied. I had the chance. I dropped out, but I had the chance to go to university. Like, I was being hard on myself. But they were all saying to me, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't work so much. Take a break. And the second I take a break or something, if the thoughts are still coming back, it's like, I don't know why, but I need to do this. My values is I've been lucky enough that I get to live in this day and age. I need to make this happen. I've got the experiences. I was lucky to have good friends. I was lucky to go to Ibiza when I was younger. All of this stuff. So that's where I'm feeling. So you can change the value, or you can listen to what the emotions are saying to you, and they're motivators, right? So if you're just taking the drugs, then you're numbing yourself. And eventually, I'm back in Ibiza now. I'm doing this. So that low confidence isn't there anymore because I rise to the challenge. Whereas if I was just listening to denying symptoms, just getting rid of the feeling. No, that sadness, that feeling low confidence motivated me because I knew I could be doing better than I was. Right? So you have to listen to the sadness. The sadness, you're on your own. Of course, you're not supposed to be in life on your own. You're supposed you're born on your own, and then surely everything else is about other people. You're sad because of the way things are now compared to the way things were 20, 30 years ago. We need to get things back to the way they used to be 20, 30 years ago. No, the world needs to change. If everyone's just popping pills, then, they're not dealing with the problems. So self-help. Okay, very good. Wouldn't be here today talking to you if it wasn't for that. Amazing. We have books today. We're so lucky. Okay, very inexpensive. Can be better than therapy if you know more than the therapists do. And sadly, that is the case a lot of the time. So you do need to get educated on yourself. You need to know how the mind works. My YouTube videos, I'm going to tell you all of this for free. Anyway, I believe it's your right to know how the mind works. We all should have been taught, but for some reason, psychology isn't in the schools. Now, more expensive, because if it takes you a long time to start earning money because your unconscious beliefs are preventing you from doing that, then, you have emotional spending, for example, it's going to take you longer anyway. It will be more expensive. There's a communication problem. So when people say things like work hard, that's just one thing I listen to. I see people that were doing better than me online, and they said, you just got to work hard all the time. I did that, and I always believed in doing that from the age of, young. I was working in markets at 15 years old. I was doing 2 jobs a day for many years. But when I started reading the self-help and I said, just work hard, what I started doing was more of this. I started denying the symptoms, like my body was hurting, and that's what led to the slip disc. The information wasn't right for me. Okay, so what I'm trying to do and help you is I've been through all these mental health conditions, so I know what advice is right for you and what's wrong for you. Okay, be grateful. Again, didn't work for me. I tried being grateful. Of course, I was thankful for everything, but because my body, had no awareness. I spent so long living in my mind because I was always thinking about the future. One day things will get better. I'm used to living in the mind. I don't feel grateful because my body and mind is not working properly. Okay, so you need someone that understands what you're going through, right? So there's a communication problem. Okay, or just be present, right? Yeah, sure, be present, absolutely, but don't deny what you're thinking. If you're thinking, you need to act on your thoughts. All these ideas, but then we need to break through the anxiety that's preventing us acting on our thoughts. No accountability. Okay, again, humans, if you talk, it's a high level brain process for one. It's gonna be getting you engaged. Emotion, again, we should be connected. But the accountability thing is like, you don't think your life's that important. Like, you might think life's important, but because perhaps the way you've been treated, you don't value life as much as you should. So when it comes to getting better, there's not really, and no one's, you might have people in your life, but there's no external expectation. It's all coming from you. If you've got mental health conditions, it's difficult. It's not the same as like, you can go to work. You go to work very easily because people are expecting you there. And you do that because you kind of have to. But, when you get home, and then people are stuck in depression, they don't have the same. So coaching is very useful, okay? That's where you get the accountability, because you've got to have targets in life. Happiness is down to these circumstances. And you can work through when people aren't doing certain things, such as I had a client, she was engaging in she's not eating very well. I said, right, what you need to do, you need to get these healthy recipes. I sent her the recipes, these healthy cakes, healthy biscuits, and you're not going to be eating the junk food. Okay, you're going to go to the shops and you're going to walk past the chocolate aisle because you've got something nice at home. And she weren't doing it, and I was just like, right, I'll explain to you, okay, what you need to do. Like, let's talk about it. So, what thoughts came in your mind? Why didn't you do this? And she says, because if I baked it, I thought I would just ate the whole thing. So there was another thought that came in that stopped her doing that. So there's always reasons why you do and you don't do things. Then we worked out a solution for her. But that's what you really got to be aware of, is all your thoughts. So coaching, having continual communication, rather than one session with someone a week, like a continual relationship is ideal for that, because all these thoughts, there's thousands of thoughts, okay? So you need to get rid of all the ones that aren't serving you. The problem with standard coaching is it's expected of someone without mental health issues, which is vastly different. If you can't visualize and all these other things, this is an issue, right? And if there's all this trauma, all these emotions, like, say you want to be a singer, and they're like, yeah, just make sure you go to 10 venues this week, you speak to all of them, job done. But that person's got major anxiety. They're going to get to the venue to talk to the owner, and they're just going to be trembling. They'll be like, you can be the best singer ever, but you're not communicating that to the person, because all they're seeing is anxiety, and they're thinking, well, anxiety means that person is not good, right? So my approach is that we deal with the emotions, because once you deal with the emotions, everything else falls into place. So I have a program which is more for this if you're more objective focused as well, which is in another video. But I also have the one-to-ones too. And I'm from a working class background. I kept everything affordable for people because I know what it's like. I've been a chef, postman, labourer. So I do believe in working hard and putting that same kind of effort into mental health. Right? I've been through the tough jobs. And I've been doing it 10 years, on and off. I've travelled the world, lived in Ibiza, Byron Bay, Lancaster, Brighton, Essex. So I've done all different jobs as I've moved around. I'm back in Ibiza now. This is what I'm doing. And, 18 years old was the first time, quite possibly the youngest practitioner in the world. What this has all allowed me to do, I've worked with tons of people over the years, teenagers, seniors, every condition you can think of. But again, because I've done regular jobs as well, I've met literally thousands and thousands of people. So I do know people quite well too. And as I said, I've been through it all myself, and I waited until I'd solved it fully before I came back into this, because I needed to be able to know if I'm going to be charging someone money. I didn't want to do the therapy thing, like, hey, do you need a chat? I wanted, like, look, how can we solve your problem? Building, someone makes something in your house, you're buying an extension. You're paying the postman to deliver your mail. It's like you should. This is why people don't get help, because they don't want to just have a fairy. They could talk to their mum. They could talk to their best friend. You don't want to just talk to someone. You want the problem solved. And that's what I'm about. You can learn more about me and my services at my website, undeniablerecovery.co.uk. You can book generally 1 to 2 hours with me. Different prices if you're under 25 or over. And then there's the 3-month program too, which is what I recommend if you you have objectives, or there's a lot going on for you at the moment. So, and there's another video. Okay, so you need to learn about the mind and use it properly. The mind enables us to fix our mental health conditions, but we also need to generate the positive emotions. We also need the energy. We need confidence. It takes confidence to do things like to work for yourself. It takes motivation to do this. And it takes energy. And what most people don't know about, they're working so hard. When they're getting home, they're exhausted. And if you're just in a job that you don't like, doesn't pay you that well, so you're not able to save money to move your life forward, but then in the evening you're exhausted, it's that evening that's going to change your life, because over time you do things like write a book, or retrain. So the energy is important. So it takes your life situation to affect your mental health. So, and to create happiness. So you need to know about these things. It's in the next video. So there are ways of doing things, and it's all online, okay? The next one is about this. But once you've got the mind sorted, once you've cleared out the pain, you're not going to be doing those things you shouldn't be doing, such as junk food. You're not going to be procrastinating, which makes you hate yourself. You're not going to be underperforming. You can really play the guitar, but for some reason you're not doing it as well as you used to. It's because of the mental health, okay? And you'll be able to stick to your plans, right? Because you've probably got great ideas, but you need to be able to stick to them. The next video is more about the mind, how it works, and how it's about life situation, and how it is really all back to what you're thinking about and these different belief systems. It's about happiness and how that works. It's not what you think it is. How to develop more motivation, confidence, energies. That's what it takes. And the routines, right? It's 3 years ago I developed that routine. My back injury and stuff was hurting. How I managed to empty my mind and go from really suicide every day, thinking of that, and to the point where, even knowing what I know, and the development of this process and all this more information that I thought of, the paperwork I've invented, all the sheets from my program. Okay, so even if you aren't able to purchase the program, all that information you need, if you want to do this on your own, the same way I had to, is in that other video. Okay, I wrote the book. It took me a year to write it, which is what this is all based on. It's for people who are in my position. Okay. So you have learned so far, just to sum up this, I don't know whether you want to take screenshots of this or not. You can do that on your phone. Right. Having a life better. It has been. Okay. And then if you are you're not going to book a session with me for whatever reason, I do recommend you do. because it's going to be tailored for your specific circumstances. But if you are not going to do that, just remember these things too, okay? And use this.